Hello and welcome back to the NFL DFS slate breakdown for the Dolphins at the Rams Monday Night Football. We're going to be going over the slate, but before we do, I'm your host Tyler Weeman at FlatTyler83 on Twitter and your DFS sites, and you should come join us at LineStar. There is a free 7-day trial if you've never tried us out before. Just go to the App Store, LineStar app or LineStar DFS, and we will pop up. And if you've never used us, 7 days free. That does get you access to both the website and the apps. Now, let's get into it and go over the slate as a whole. So we got the Miami at Dolphins, 48.5 total. Rams have the slight edge with the 2.5 spread. And for DFS, let's get over to DK. Highest owned quarterback, Tua, 70% owned. Stafford is at 52%. Tua does have a little bit better of a matchup. Rams defense, especially versus the wide receivers, hasn't been great. So it does make sense that Tua is going a little higher owned. Personally, I think that the average baseline from Stafford is a little higher than Tua, at least when Stafford has both Kupp and Puka on the field. I would rather Stafford over Tua. Now, the defense is a little bit tougher that Stafford's going against, but I'll take the, less money and less ownership and roll with Stafford. I don't mind me some Tua, though. I think both are absolutely great options. And as I always say, make sure when you're making your lineups, tell a story with the lineup. Ravens blowout, 5-1. Tell that story and what could happen on the other side and whatnot. And that will lead you to kind of which quarterbacks to pick as well. On FanDuel, price is very similar. I don't mind which one you go. Tua is the salary saver. Stafford's a little bit higher and lower owned. Both have their reasons to be played. Now, to the running back spot, I think this is a really interesting spot today. Devon Chan, 9,400, and with Tua, he just has a giant ceiling. He's been used a ton with Tua out of the backfield in the passing game. 8 targets last game, 8 targets the game before. First 2 games, 7 apiece. The guy has just been a Swiss Army knife being absolutely used all over the field. I love Chan for this game, and we'll have a ton of him. I'm very interested in him, and I think he is definitely the best play from the running back spot. But do not sleep on Kyren, who his line for a touchdown last I checked was like minus 200 or something like that. He is definitely the most likely to score in today's game. I'm just trying to search what that line actually is. Yeah, minus 220. To give you an idea, that is like Derrick Henry odds to score a touchdown. The guy has been automatic. It doesn't take much if you score a touchdown to end up being optimal in a lineup. So Kyren needs to be considered. He isn't used as much in the passing game, where Achane can give you a touchdown worth of points through the passing game. Kyren might be 2-3 extra points, but there's big time touchdown upside with him. So definitely interested in some Kyren in this spot. And then you go to the backups, and Blake Corum barely used last game with Puka and Cutback, or really the last 2. So he is nothing more than an injury, hoping an injury for Kyren type play. That would be the story you're playing with him. On the other side, Jalen Wright and Raheem Mostert are both being used a little bit. Wright, 6 carries last time, 2 the week before, 5 the week before that. Whereas Mostert last week had 10 carries and 2 receptions. The week before that, 9 carries, 2 receptions, 2 touchdowns. So Mostert is definitely the RB2. He is not used as much as Achane, but he is used decently and consistently. His price, however, is pretty pricey for the workload that he's currently getting, but there is touchdown upside with him. He's used a lot in the red zone. Absolutely need to consider using some Mostert in your lineups, with Jalen Wright being a little bit more of the punt play. Mostert is kind of a punt play because he's only 5% owned, but you have to pay up to get different. However, absolutely consider Mostert for your lineups just because he does have a role. He will be on the field 40-ish% of the time and used a ton in the goal line. On the goal line. Running back on FanDuel, HN being 4,500 less than Kyron is wild to me, but touchdowns are worth more than receptions just because it's half point PPR. But you got to consider HN, and I think he should be the higher owned one of these two, with the price considered there. Mostert going is a little high priced in this situation, but also gets you different, so absolutely in consideration. On to wide receiver on DraftKings. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Tyreek Hill are the obvious three that you need to consider. Tyreek being $10K and only $200 more than Kupp is insane to me. This is a guy that had 13 touchdowns last year and was pushing for 2K yards in the season. He's had a rough go so far this season, but look, I know he's questionable. He has a wrist injury, and if he is out, hammer Waddle for sure, but I think he plays. I think his wrist will be fine enough to play, and he's done well enough, and there's a giant ceiling. It is, a bigger ceiling than Puka, in my opinion, just because he can get 200 yards, whereas the other two are unlikely to go for that. Not that Hill's likely, but I would say he's more likely than those other two. Definitely am interested in some Hill, especially at lower ownership. Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Puka only played 35% of the snaps last game. He got ejected. Unsure how healthy that knee was, but it does appear that that knee injury is a little bit behind him, but it does keep popping up. So we need to consider that knee injury at these ownerships. I do think ownerships and price, Kupp might be the sharper play, but 100% both of these guys need to be considered. And likely one of them goes off. Demarcus Robinson is the wide receiver for this team and is used a ton as the the WR3. When he's asked to be a little bit more than that, he doesn't do much. As that number 3 spot, he's been crushing it. Look, 27, 18. You go back to last year and he had this run of 16, 14, 15, 20, 14. The guy has used a ton in the red zone area with Puka and Cooper being healthy. So I think you really need to consider Demarcus Robinson. Shannon picked him as her anytime touchdown for today. There is value there. Low owned. I like that play quite a bit. And then Jalen Waddle. I don't totally love him with if Tyreek is in, for the reason being that he is kind of the third option on this team. He's only getting 5 targets a game. Achane is getting 8, with Tua. So I would prefer Achane over Waddle, but Waddle does have a role. He has the ability to break a big one. So slightly interested with him, but not overly. Beckham, he had 3 targets last week. He's nothing more than a punt play. And then all of your other Rams wide receivers are just that. They are punt plays. Pretty much all of the targets are going to go to Puka, Cooper, or DeMarcus. So those are absolutely your main targets. On FanDuel, with Tyreek being $14K, he is cheaper than Cooper Kupp. I would be absolutely hammering Tyreek, especially because it's half point PPR versus full point. And the yardage is where Tyreek is really, a step above Coop and Nakua at this point in their career. So I'm very interested in Tyreek over here. Moving on over to tight end, Jonnu Smith. Kobe Parkinson are the two tight end ones. At this point, Parkinson is an afterthought in this offense. He was being used a little bit without Kupp and Nakua. Now they are back. He's not used, and I wouldn't really be considering him too much, except for it's kind of touchdown or bust for him, and he's a tight end, so he should be used around the red zone a little bit. Jonnu Smith, I do think, is interesting. They do scheme some plays for him. Rams haven't been great versus tight end, so I think there is some upside here. He can break a big play. We saw him have 7 for 96 and a touchdown a few weeks ago. 5 for 46 last week. He's routinely getting, 4 to 8 targets. So he is noteworthy, and you need to consider him. The other guys are nothing more than punt plays. Smythe usually gets, 1 target or 0 to 1 target, but it just comes down to if that's in the end zone or not for him. And then defense. Situation here on defense, we got the Rams and the Dolphins. I don't know if a ton of defense is going to be played in this game. The Dolphins defense has been better over the last 5 games than they were to start the season. Their DVOA numbers, or our team defense tool numbers from the last 10, look way different to the last 5. The last 5, the Dolphins defense does show that it's been solid. But that's also likely because of scheme changes and the fact that they couldn't get much done, on offense without Tua. With Tua back, the game opens up a little bit, and I think that defense is going to be a little bit worse than, it's been more stout lately. So, moral of the story, both defenses you can consider, but without a pick six, I don't think either of them end up being optimal, or a sack, fumble, touchdown, or special teams play. Something like that has to happen. Can they happen? Yes. Is it likely? No. But, you're also trying to win, huge money and have a solo win, which isn't likely either. So sometimes we got to take chances. These guys are in play, but I wouldn't go super hard. Kickers, obviously in play. We got a game total of almost 50. It is likely one of these kickers goes for 10 plus points, maybe 12, 15, something like that. And that is enough to get them into an optimal lineup. So pick your poison. Good luck. We will be back later this week with more DFS talk. Have a good one, guys. Peace.